flight, right? And we're learning that apparently it was because I think 4 bolts were missing from the door when it was put into air. So somehow those bolts never got put on. That's the latest I heard last night. So welcome everyone to Global Leader, our Wednesday um, class to really drill down and develop some better leadership skills for a complex world. And I just want to make sure that everything is fully connected before we begin. So I just want to point you to the big board for a moment and remind you that just behind me, you'll see over the map of the world. I'm going to leave that up there today. We have in the top right-hand corner is the Korea video conferencing system that all of our classmates at Durham College connect to. And then in the lower left is the YouTube live stream, and that's a 10-second delay generally. And that's where we also record the class too, in high definition. So I'm going to try and leave that up there for the entirety of the class today. So we have a good global view of the map, and we also have the live chats going in Toria, and I can always scroll down to see what's happening in YouTube. But essentially, just remember, YouTube is for anyone who's joining if they want to from elsewhere in the world, but they're not paid students like you are at Durham College. So they're just joining the class. They can watch it. They can engage in the live chat if they want, but they're not here getting marked, submitting assignments. And some people will come in through the YouTube live stream, but also there are those who may come in through the Toria video conference from elsewhere, and we'll see them too in the live chat, and maybe we'll see them like Mohammed and Cindy and others. We'll see them on camera too. So just want to make sure everybody's clear on what's happening on the big board because it's a work in progress, this class, as we try to get all this tech working for everybody. So we have quite a bit of work to do today in terms of continuing from last week, the problem solving that we started. And let me just get the chairs set up properly. The microphones are there, and I'll make sure that it's a little tight here right now, but we'll get that arranged a little bit later. Let me just start for a moment in the cosmos, and then we'll come in person to see how you're doing. Uh, Cindy, I think, and Mohammed. Hi, Mohammed. Could you just jump on your microphone for a moment and say hi? Just want to make sure that everything's working. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, great. That's Cindy. Good morning, Cindy. Good. So that's working really well. How are you today, Cindy?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And
Great.
yourself?
Everything's good here in terms of things are set up. Once the technical part is connected, then the class generally goes well, and I think we're in good shape. So what I'd like to do, now that I know that we have everybody into the space, is first start with a little bit of review, and then we're going to jump into the main part of today's class, which is that we're going to probably work together as just one team right now, given the number of people who are here. I don't think I need to put you into breakout groups today, but I've learned how to do the breakouts on Toria, so it's quite simple. We'll see if more students come into the class, either in person or online, because I may split you into breakout groups of 3 or 4 to finish what we started last week, okay? But what you're looking at, oh, just a second, tech issue number 1. Today, there's always something. I gotta move a little slowly for a second. Okay, so hold on. I'll hold that for now. Yeah, stay here. Don't get caught in that. Good. Okay, can't make any sudden moves. You see behind me on the big board the notes from last week. And we're going to pick up where we left off very shortly to finish that activity about identifying what is the number one problem that we need to kind of drill down on today. But the idea was, if you remember from last week, that we actually had our groups, but they weren't quite breakout groups yet in terms of Toria working. But we had some groups, and then we did our take up, and we had some good comments from Princess, of course, and over at the board. And I think Barack, were you on the board last week doing some notes too? Okay, so we'll see how we're going to do that today in terms of finishing the notes. But essentially, what we want to do is we want to take those defined problems that we worked on last week, and we want to select one clear problem. And then in the main part of today's class, we want to look at how we can create an action plan around that one problem. So we have a critical decision to make fairly soon, and we will do that in our discussion. And that is, we're going to review those four problems, and then we're going to decide which one do we really want to drill down on today, and then have that discussion about the action plan. And that action plan is going to be added to the notes. So we're just going to continue the notes from last week. These are going to be very important notes because this is the first class we've done this semester where we've really done some intensive problem solving. And this will be a good record for you in terms of possibly what you reflect on for your second reflection that's coming. I also want to tell you about next week's class, which is a really big global that we're going to be having. And our president is going to be here, and he is an example of, I think, a pretty effective global leader. He's retiring now, but I want to show you the preparation that's been done for that class on the Durham College's Global Classroom web page or web portal. So there's probably the biggest global class we've had so far this semester is going to happen next week on Valentine's Day, which is the 14th. So I want to show you that momentarily and get you ready for that. And beyond that, I think that after today's class, we'll have a pretty good record of some of our, I would say, a kind of think tank today. Today is, if this were a television show, the global class today, it would be called Think Tank, not Shark Tank. And we are going to really do some good interaction around trying to figure out an action plan for a critical global problem from our list. So that's the plan for today. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to bring to the class's attention? Please feel free to take the microphone and grab it, or I can help you in a moment. Online, hi, Mayreen. Excellent. Mayreen is with us. I want to do an expo review as well in terms of an update on where things stand with that. And we have a emerging production team, and I will just show you for a second for the online group. You'll see me walking over here. Yeah, good. So, but for all of you, you can look here, you can look there, you can look anywhere. But I just want to remind the students, everybody, that we also have to talk about, whoops, uh, this over here, which is we have a production team. Now, I am noticing something today. Let's see who shows. Good, here comes Richie. I was just going to say, who is here from the production team? And we have Princess and we have Richie. But I'm going to just say, from the standpoint of me wearing an executive producer hat right now, which is what I used to do, this is not a good sign for the team members who haven't shown up. And they know who they are because it's right there on the big board. Now, they may be online. I don't see them there. They may be watching the recording. But for those of you, and I'm not going to name you right now, I'm just being a professional right now, okay? I'm wearing my professional hat. Producer, director, writer, I used to do all these things. If we're going to have this team, production team, and only 2 of the 4 show up, that's not good guys. You know who you are, okay? You're out there, probably in the recording, but you may have a reason for not coming to the class today. So let me know. But I am going to proceed with Princess and Richie. And Richie did say in an email to me that he was going to try and make it today, and he did. So I want to remind all of you about something. And again, I'm not singling out Jamie and Ryan, but it's clear who they are. Um, guys, just I need to say this because this is a global leader class. What you say in terms of commitment matters as a leader. And I am sure that you have a good reason for not being here today. So I'm going to take this and give you a benefit of the doubt always. But I just want to remind you, you're becoming a pro in this class. Professionals, they have their integrity, and their word is everything. So, Jamie, Ryan, you didn't promise that you would be here. Fair enough. Nor did Princess, but she's here. But I just want to identify one thing in terms of professionalism, just basic professionalism. This student, Richie, emailed and said he's going to try and make it. Richie was the only one of the team, of the four, who responded to the email I sent all of you with the links that I promised I would send you and said, thank you. Maybe I'll see you next week. I didn't get an email from Princess saying thank you. I didn't get anything from Jamie and anything from Ryan. Now, let me just make this clear. This is a classroom. This is not a production company, which I used to run with partners. So I come from many years of professional work. I need to teach you certain professional skills in order for you to be effective as a leader. And I'm just going to point things out when I can that you're not expected to be a professional in this class yet. You're emerging as a professional. But real pros, they know how to use email. They acknowledge and they say thanks. It's quick. I don't even know if Richie saw the links that I sent. That's okay. He at least acknowledged and said, got it. Maybe see you next week. I remember that. Of the four people on this team, only one person responded. And that kind of concerns me because I don't think it's very professional. But it's still a classroom. Okay, so you're still emerging. And if the others have reasons for why they're not here or why they didn't email, here's what you can't do anymore. And I'm speaking as a professional. You can't say you're busy. You can't say you have too much work to do. You can't say I'm overwhelmed. The only thing you can say that would get you perhaps an ear from your boss is, I'm really sick and I can't come in. Other than that, you're expected to show up. When you give your word, you live by your word, and you use email as a skill so that you demonstrate real respect for your communication that you do and your team members. But I will finally just say one thing. This is not yet a professional production house here. It's just a classroom, and everybody's learning. Okay? So I will lower my expectations in terms of what I expect. But when you come into this class, I want you to remember that as your teacher, educator, I also have a lot of experience as a professional. And most of my time has not been in the academic world, it's been in the professional world. So I understand what you need, what kind of skills you need. Okay, good. He's here. Come on in. So fair enough. Ryan, come grab a seat. Ryan is just late. That's okay. But beyond that, it's good that you're here. Okay, excellent. I just spoke a little bit about making sure that the team members were here, but you're good. Okay, you're here. Thanks. And I'm sure Jamie has a good reason. All right. So I want to give Maureen a chance to update us on where things are with the co-creation challenge that we're developing for the Expo presentation. And then we will really get into the interaction. And essentially what I wanted to today in terms of interaction, if this is really going to work, is there will be two students up here. Okay, I'm gonna kind of take a back seat and come to the couches. So I'll help you with the two students there. I'll be back here. We'll have maybe two or three over there. But essentially, we're gonna have a very intensive circle of problem solving interaction together. Okay, so I want you to get ready for that. And some good news for all of you is that in the reflections that quite a few have been submitting who have been watching the recordings of the 41 or 42 students who are registered in this class. Most of them are watching the recordings. They like seeing you guys interacting. They are understanding something about what we're developing, which is this is sort of the TV show here, but it's not. There are no commercials. There's no ideology. Nobody's trying to sell you anything. There's no people who are airbrushed with a lot of makeup and, faking it. This is real. This, but, you know, we've got a little format that's going to work for some drama, and they like seeing what you have to say. They're learning from Barack, Ryan, Princess, Grayson, Jazeel, Richie when he's here, and it's Abdul. And where's Jazeel? Yeah, Abdul, Jazeel, and Subit. Okay, and what's Burhan, great, Burhan. Um, so your voices matter in this, and I want to get into this interaction as soon as I can. It does not mean that you are expected to interact here. Just know that those who are watching the classes, they are learning from all of us, which is great. All right. So unless you have any questions, I'm going to let Maureen give us a little update, and then we will start. Okay. So hi, Maureen. Maureen, how you doing?
Hi, Lon. Good morning, everybody. I'm doing great. Sorry, I actually wanted to turn on my camera, but
That's
for
okay.
some reason, while when I turn it on, I can't hear your audio, Lon. Like I can't hear you. Like it just mutes somehow when I turn my camera. So that's why I did turn it on in the beginning, and then I had to keep entering and leaving the room. But I
No
guess the
problem.
microphone's working fine. So, but yeah, it's been going good. Update regarding the expo. Yesterday, I finalized the form that we have to submit for the co-creation challenge. I have sent it across to you, Lon. So I don't know if you have a chance, if you want to quickly just give me your feedback, then we can
Yep.
adjust it accordingly, and then hopefully submit it maybe today or tomorrow.
Great. Okay. Yeah, your audio is a little broken up, but that's not a problem. So, in terms of a deadline that we are working towards right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to add to this that I'm trying to use everything that we're doing with Expo as an experiential opportunity for you to learn about developing a project from the ground floor up, because that's what leaders do. They build things. Okay, so we're building something for Expo. So one of the critical things about leadership and professionalism is deadlines. And so we have a deadline right now that we're working towards. And I just want to, Maureen, to remind us of one deadline with the co-creation challenge. Can you just let the class know again, Maureen? I know there's maybe some flexibility there, but please go ahead.
Sure. Can you hear me better now, Lon?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So, in terms of the deadline that we have, the immediate deadline is the end of March, March the 31st. And the deadline is for the initiative called Best Practices. So, this co-creation challenge that that I should be able to submit either today or tomorrow. Once we register ourselves officially as a challenge, we can then submit an application, which the deadline is the 31st of March,
Okay.
and register ourselves as best practice. And essentially, what that will be is that we can have our own dedicated kind of like page space on probably the expo site, and even a space dedicated to us on the expo site for next year during the expo event.
Okay.
So hopefully we're aiming towards that. So that's our deadline. So once I submit this co-creation challenge form, then the next step will be to apply for best practices.
Great. And you mentioned that there's something today or tomorrow?
Yes, just submitting that co-creation challenge form that I
Okay.
like sent you via email. If once you have a look at that, then I can get it like sent as soon as possible.
Great. But the actual deadline for that is March the 31st.
Well, the co-creation challenge that I'm looking to
Yes.
submit right now is there's no real deadline for that one. It's just the best practices that is the
Oh,
next
that's
step
right.
after submitting this
Got it.
challenge is has
Yes,
a
March
deadline of March
31st.
the 31st.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thanks, Mayreen. Do any of you have any questions for Mayreen about this or anything you'd like to say before we let her get back to work? Are you at work today, Mayreen?
Yes, I am at work. My
Okay.
supervisor just stepped out, so that's why I couldn't be there in
Okay.
person. I'm aiming for next week to be there in person, hopefully, but we'll see.
No problem. Want to let you go. Is there anything that any of you would like to um, mention to her, ask? Anything from the cosmos? Please put it in the live chat. If you can't jump on your microphone, you're always welcome to do that. But we've got everything in front of us on the big board today to check in on the live chat. So I'm going to leave that up there. And for all of you, if you see anything in the live chat there, that I can't see because I'm looking at all of you, just raise a hand and say something in the live chat, okay? But yeah, Jazeel, go ahead.
The expo, how should I say? Um, so far, from what I've seen, the major participation I've seen is the production team that's currently working on a trailer. So uh, that's for the deadline for the end of March, right?
Not necessarily. That's a longer project, the
Okay.
production team. So there's no.
So is there any other parts, any other teams or any other parts students can play in?
Absolutely.
Just want to confirm it. And
There's a lot. This is, I want you all to know that the involvement of all of you in anything to do with Expo um, is something that can become part of your final assignment this semester. So there will be marks attached to it if you want. Um, there are all sorts of opportunities for you that I'm presenting, but I don't want you to feel any pressure that you have to do this, okay? Because this is a bigger project, and I like the work that students can do at the college when they care. They do some great work. So I know they can do it. But at the same time, I don't want you to feel like your professor is expecting you to do this, okay? So, but yes, absolutely. You can join the production team, or you may have some ideas, Jazeel, of what we should be doing for this presentation next year.
I was thinking of if there's any other ways I can help other than making a trailer. It's due to my lack of skills in this area of
Sure.
expertise. But if is there any other way I can help, I'm very happy.
Well, Mayreen, we're having a production meeting. Every company that is worth its future anywhere on the planet right now does this all the time. They have meetings with their staff and they talk about future projects. So I just want to remind you that this is all in aid of helping you to develop leadership skills, too. It's also helping the global classroom. So in a production meeting, we have our team together. And when an idea comes up from a member of that team, let's say, leader, right now it's me, maybe the executive producer, we'll go, well, let's talk about this. And he will move the conversation to another team member who might be more directly involved in this, which is Mayreen. She's coordinating this initiative. So, Mayreen, what do you think we should tell Jazeel at this point about his question that he wants to get involved? What should we do?
So, when Lon, you'd mentioned about the production team for the short videos that you would like you requested them to do for like on the class. I My thought was that it's more specifically for like us like kind of getting social media traction going. So
Yes.
maybe we can upload it mostly on the website and maybe on our social media like Instagram or Twitter or X as it's called now. But we would require teams other than that production team because that is more specific to just in general us gaining like having being part of that social media, like having a social media presence.
Right.
But we'll definitely need someone to like maybe even like type something out or even like coordinate or organize something related to our presentation at the expo. So once we submit this co-creation challenge and then sign up as co-creation partners, which is a separate application to this challenge.
Hmm.
Then once we have that official confirmation that we're part of the expo, then we can go forward and kind of delegate tasks and kind of brainstorm on what would be needed to kind of have the best possible experience and presentation at the World Expo next year. So for sure, we would
Sure.
definitely need students apart from this production team that Lon would obviously, kind of see the need of those teams, and then I would try to assist Lon with that. So for
Let
sure,
me
that
try
like
something on the fly here, okay? I'm
okay,
going to put an email for Jazeel. Okay, good, I can do this. Boom, 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 boom,
yeah.
boom.
Jaziel
Prompted.
I did see your email in the global classroom email, so I didn't respond today. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I was late responding,
That's
but
okay.
yes,
Jazeel, so it's called the Global
the
Class
global class at
at
durhamcollege.ca.
durhamcollege.ca. Okay, so I'm trying to enlarge this. Does that, can you see that clearly, Jazeel? So email to that. Okay, hold on. I want to make sure that this is in your face. Okay, how do I get this in your face? There, that's kind of in your face. Okay, so good. And I can play with the tech a little bit. So send us a quick email, which you may have already. Just say, I want to get involved, not necessarily on the production team, but something else. And here's the brilliant thing. If you could do this in the workplace, your boss will really like you. You do something like this. I'm a huge believer in writing really good, brief, specific emails or letters to your boss with suggestions. So you could write to Maureen. This is just an example, Jazeel. And you could say to her, Dear Maureen, further to the discussion that we had in class today, comma, I would like to suggest an idea for the expo presentation, period. Okay? What you're doing is you're taking initiative. You're suggesting something. You're not just sending your CV or your resume in to the company and saying, I've got all of these credentials. I've got this certificate. I've got this degree. You should hire me. I wouldn't even interview you if I received a message like that, unless your CV is amazing. But then I might think you've lied, that you've made things up. So I'd want to meet you one on one. But first, if you're able to write something specific that says, I have an idea. Here's what I think you might want to look into for Expo. And I think I could help you do that with my experience. If you would like to know more about this, please let me know, and I'm available to discuss this with you anytime. Now, if I receive that, something like that, here's what I would think as the boss. That student has imagination. That student has courage because they've written to the boss with an idea they've shown that they can think for themselves, and they've paid attention to their sentences, meaning they're not sloppy in their thinking. Whenever somebody writes something not very good, I usually think, unless they have trouble with the English language, which a lot of students do, fair enough, but if they don't, my immediate assessment is, if this student is writing me that way, that's an indication of how that student approaches everything in their lives. They're sloppy, they're lazy, they are taking things for granted. Why wouldn't that student take the time to proofread his sentences and make sure that I've received something really well written? Because if that is true, the student sends me something well written like that, I will think that's the way his mind works. I think I want to hire that person. Is this making sense? Yeah. So write Mayreen a little note. Two paragraphs, maximum 3. Take it as a test. Think of her as your boss for the moment, okay? Dear Mayreen, we had this discussion. Here's what I think. And make your pitch. And then say, I'd be happy to discuss this with you in person. Okay. Is this making sense also for you and how I'm trying to guide you in leadership skills through real world examples this semester? Instead of giving you a PowerPoint with a list of all sorts of skills and put you to sleep, we're embedding this in real projects, which is exactly what you will have to do in the real world. Is it good? Yeah, okay. No, you can disagree. Great, Richie, go ahead. Yes, is that, it may not be.
Yeah. I had a question regarding the expo.
Yeah.
So, being that it's a tech expo,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
do our ideas have to be related or interlinked with the tech field, or we could just come up with any, for example, political ideas or any other popular ideas in the society now today, or
Well, I would say it's a good question because you're asking the criteria. Mayreen, my suggestion with Richie is maybe we should be sending Richie some information about Expo and its criteria. You know, something specific, not a lot, but enough for him to know exactly what they're asking for in terms of, is that, Mayreen, would you be able to send that to him?
Yes, Lon, sure.
Great.
If you wouldn't mind sending us an email, so that way I have your email and I could just reply to that with the
Great.
information.
okay,
Yep. And we'll get you, I want to make sure you have the accurate information. So they have a lot of very specific lists of what they're looking for.
Okay.
And that's a good question.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks
thanks,
for
Richie. Okay, great. Mayreen, I think we need to let you go. Okay, Ryan, but Brian, should we let Mayreen go, or do you want to
I
talk?
have some time. I can
Are
say
you
maybe
okay?
another. Yep, I have some time.
Okay, so Ryan, do you want to grab a mic and feel free to come sit up here. By the way, we can get the chairs going too. Ryan, you want to go over there and we'll get someone up here shortly. Okay, if you want to go here, Richie, you're welcome to it. Okay, yeah.
I just wanted to ask, like, what kind of people will kind of be attending this event? Like, obviously, it's gonna have people from all over the world. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, what audience of people we're gonna be talking to, because I feel like that's an important point in presenting anything. You have to know your audience and how you should communicate your points.
Absolutely, it's a
So-
good question. Mayreen, would you be able to answer that?
Yes. So, with my experience with the last expo, literally anyone is gonna be present. You know, whoever can obviously make the travel to Japan. We because the expo is also a platform where countries are gonna showcase their technology. Which will potentially be, you know, like funded by like either entrepreneurs, government entities. So we have a lot of officials that also are are usually on site. And from the previous expo, we every day is dedicated to a country or maybe 2 or 3 countries. So we usually have officials visiting from the country, so to kind of like celebrate the culture and just kind of celebrate the country. So they're also going to be present on site. um, in terms of like the one for next year, the expo for next year, I think will be very similar. And because Japanese technology is one of the most advanced on like in the world, we might have a lot of virtual events also that might happen compared to the last expo. So even people who can't actually be on site, there will be a lot of virtual events and programs happening. I think so. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Good. Thanks. Thanks, Ryan. Maureen, you're welcome always to stay as long as you want, but you can also get back to work if you have to, okay? I'll move on with the class.
Thank you, Lauren. I'll stay as long as I can, just
Yeah,
to listen the students and whatever is
that's great.
happening in the classroom, and then if I need to leave, I can leave. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Excellent. Bye-bye. Um, Take a look behind me at the big board. This is the class page for next week's class. And this is a really significant class. And I'd like you to also be aware of what's here because I'd like you to do a little preparation for the class and be ready. But essentially, here's what's happening next week in this room. Okay? The college has, no, you're good to stay there. I just need to make sure I know where I'm going right now. Okay? No, I'm just going to stay right here. The college has a journalism program here that they're very proud of, and I likewise am too. And this year, the Durham Chronicle, the Durham newspaper put out by the journalism program here for Durham College and Ontario Tech, is celebrating its 50th anniversary. And the newspaper and its program have won awards and been honored for their work. And they're having a series of events through the year to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Durham Chronicle. And next week, we're going to have a class here that celebrates that, but it's more than just journalism. I want to explain why this is so important in terms of leadership. First, next week, for our global class, I will be co-hosting it with our president, Don Lavisa, who will be sitting here, and one of the journalism coordinators, Teresa Goff, will probably be here. Some of the journalism students will be coming here or online with you, and even people from the rest of the college. Let me just finish for a second, okay, Ryan, just so I explain. There is a program called DC Talks. And that's something that is done with the Alumni and Development Department here at the college. Sally Hillis is the coordinator of that. Her son actually plays professional hockey for the Montreal Canadiens. Very interesting lady. And we've worked closely over the years together. And she always does the DC Talks classes through the global classroom with my students in the global class. And we've developed this really cool format, which is really about leadership. And so the people that you will be meeting next week, the guests, they're all here. Not only will our president be co-hosting, but there will be about 4 or 5 Durham College graduates from each of the last 4 or 5 decades at this college who've graduated from the journalism program and who have succeeded in the work that they're doing here or elsewhere in the world. You're going to meet them, and they will be either coming in on the big board or they will be in person. What this class will be for you, more than anything, is a way for you to interact with successful Durham College graduates. As a matter of fact, what Sally and I sometimes call these classes is not just DC Talks. We sometimes call them the global graduate. And the idea is that you, as students here, before you've graduated, have a chance to meet successful Durham College graduates who are succeeding in their work elsewhere in the world and have become essentially a global graduate, because that's what we want you to become. That's what we're trying to help you to do, is to be graduating from the college ready for this global world. So you're going to have a chance to meet these 4 or 5 guests, meet our president, interact with him. He's very friendly. It's very informal. I will be guiding it, so it's very much like what we do. There's nothing different from the format, except there'll be more people, and that's it. But you're going to meet some successful Durham College graduates, and you can ask them anything you like. It just so happens that in this particular class this semester, we're focusing on journalism. But that doesn't mean you can't ask them about something unrelated to journalism, because there's a bigger thing going on here, and that's about them as global graduates. Okay? Making sense? Yeah? Good. Okay, so I just want to guide you first to this page, and what I will do for the Cosmos, see if I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm going to put the web page right now into the Toria. Okay, so here it is. This is class page for next week's Valentine's Day global class. There it is, okay? It's been dropped into the live chat. Good. I can walk, chew gum, think, breathe, and basically have fun all at the same time. Now, first, Cindy, are you there?
I am.
Great. Okay, so are you able to click on that page that was just put there for you in the live chat?
Yes, I am.
Great. Okay, good. So that's in the live chat. Also, for those of you watching online, you should be able to see everything on the big board behind me without having to click. If you just go into a landscape mode on your phone, or you're on a laptop, even better, you should be able to see this. But anyways, at least you have the link. So let me come back to everyone here and make sure Ryan is given a chance to ask his question. This is going to be an important class for all of you in terms of interacting with success. And so I highly recommend that you go to this class page between now and next week, take a look at the guests, and maybe come with some questions. Anyways, Brian, please go ahead. That's our current president. He's retiring, and he will be leaving his position in the beginning of March. We have a new president, by the way, just so you know. You may have seen, she was hired by him, Dawn Levisa. She was our vice president of academic, Elaine Pop, who came from Humber College several years ago. Dawn is retiring. He's leaving officially at the beginning of March. You might want to ask him about his motorcycle trip that he's planning across Canada. He'll tell you a lot about that. Elaine has now been selected as the new president, and she's taking over in March, and you may meet Elaine even here at some point in this class too, because she's also been involved in these global graduate classes. Anyways, go grab a microphone so Cindy and everyone else can hear you. First, yeah, I'll give you, are you sure? Yeah, she'll be coming. I hope this semester. It may not be this semester, it may be next semester. Usually we get either Elaine or Dawn during each semester, but Princess, please go ahead, okay?
A question.
Sure.
I just want to give a suggestion, sort of,
Good. I
about
like
next
suggestions.
class.
Leader. Yeah, there's bones of a leader here. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm excited for the class because of the people, but in a way, I also want us to celebrate the holiday, being Valentine's,
Yes.
because Valentine's is a day of love, and love goes beyond like the romantic stuff. It's the fact that we're all together here, it's signs of love. So I don't know, maybe we could do something about that next, because some of us are single, so
No, I like. Well, I like this. because I have a thought. But just first of all, I just again want to acknowledge what Princess brings to the class. Okay, you all bring something. She clearly brings courage. She's always bringing imagination. And so just watch how she operates. She has some qualities that are very good in terms of a person who will succeed in leadership. I might say one small critical thing I've noticed, just very small. Sometimes you may not listen, you talk, not always listen. But that's, you can work on that. Other than that, there's so much there, Princess. Okay? But so this idea of love. Well, I want to give you something to think about because I was planning to mention this to you about next week. Journalism is a very important part of our culture that may not be fully understood. And how does this relate to love? Well, I first want to tell you something about myself. I actually am a graduate of the journalism program in 2016 or 17. But the reason I'm a graduate is because my life has been upside down. I started as a journalist, as a young reporter at City TV in the early days when I was about 16 years old. I loved journalism. Back in 1979, when I was 16 or 17, I approached the sportscaster at City TV then. You can read about this online. So, and I said, would you let me follow you around? Just see what you do? I remember this was at a baseball game, Toronto Blue Jays. It was early on in their time as our baseball team when they used to play out of the exhibition stadium, Toronto, before they had the big dome stadium. Sort of cut to the chase here. I love journalism. I'm profoundly committed to its values. When I started teaching here, because I didn't have a formal education, the college wanted me to get a proper degree. I had different little programs that I'd been to over the years, short programs that I'd been to. I'd never completely graduated. I was very self-educated, but I was already a professional producing documentaries and television programs in my teens. So I had to work with the college to get a journalism degree here based on all of my experience and all that they requested that I do. So I finally, when I was in my 50s, after a long career as a successful journalist and producer, I got my journalism degree. The true story. My education has been very much unorthodox. I'm largely self-educated, and I have built up a huge library, and I love learning, but I became very professional very early on. So I'm different. The point I want to make to what Princess has just said is that next week when you see the journalists up here and meet with them, you're going to see people who truly have a passion for their careers. And that the reason that they have succeeded is not about money. I'd like you to ask each, if you want, next week, each of the guests, have you chosen that career, journalism? Have you become successful at it because you were expected to be paid more? And I suspect you will hear unanimously from all of them, no. I succeeded because I continued to do what I love. And I was prepared to put up with all of the difficulties because I knew that I was doing the thing that's in my bones that I meant to be doing. It's called What's Bred in the Bones. Classic book by a Canadian author, Robertson Davies. So, in a way, Princess is putting her finger on something that's actually kind of important. And it's not totally by accident, Princess, that we're having this class on Valentine's Day. But she already picked it up. She already sensed it. So I want you to be aware that you are going to be meeting people next week who love what they do and are committed to higher values than personal glory, money. They're committed to, as journalists, you know what really, really good journalists do? Just curious to see if you know, because there's so much cynicism today, so much misunderstanding about what journalists are supposed to be doing in our society. It's called the fourth estate, by the way. When there was a thing called the French Revolution for democracy, 1789, the French cut the head off their king at the time, and they established four estates as a democratic government. There would be the people, the clergy, the nobility, the common people, and then the press, the free press. And these would become the pillars of this democracy. Then CBC, our network here in Canada, added something else just because they had some creativity. They started a television program that's become a classic in investigative journalism. It's called The Fifth Estate. It's been running for many, many years. It's their critical investigative program. So these estates are all very important. We, the journalists, are the fourth estate in a democracy. So what is it about journalists that you would think is so important to the functioning, the well-being of our civil and free societies? What do you think? Princess? Go ahead. Then Ryan? Yeah. You can sit if you want, Richie. Go wherever, yeah.
I'll say is my personal view though.
Yeah. Why don't you go up there so they can see you?
Okay.
Yeah, and then we've got our thing going. All right, come on over here, and I'll come over here. All right? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I'll say journalism is basically a voice. It gives voice to situations. It gives voice to people that don't have a voice, and it's very important. It's important because apart from chasing a story and the excitement in the job, if we don't have these people around, I don't want to imagine how the world will be, honestly.
Excellent. Voice for the people. Anything, Ryan? You wanted to add something, and then I'll help you in a moment to understand this more deeply. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it involves like I feel like what it should be anyway is involving telling a narrative from your own perspective, but also trying to see outside that perspective, but like relating it to you in a way that you could like connect to it. Because if you can't connect to what you're talking about, how's anybody else going to connect to it, right?
Absolutely.
So, also I wanted to say I don't want to get us too off topic, but
Sure.
maybe if we could come back to it. I was kind of curious to know what you learned from shadowing the guy.
At that time, good question. I was 16. I think I was 15 at the time. I will never forget. His name was Peter Gross. He was the sportscaster for City at the time because I thought I was going to be going to sports at one point. You know, I used to when I played hockey, competitive hockey growing up. At one time, I even worked in the announcing booth, announcing goals and assists at North Toronto Arena in Toronto. And I would manage the scoreboard too until I started to get a little bit too creative. And I started to change sometimes the minutes of the game to see if anyone would notice. And I realized I better stop doing this. I did that once or twice. But then, anyways, so Ryan, I'd also been writing some articles for what Scotiabank Hockey College News. So I was writing articles about my heroes, hockey players. Wayne Gretzky, who was just at that time coming from the WHA, which was an old league, into the NHL with the Edmonton Oilers. And so I had already some experience when I approached Peter Gross and said, I want to learn more about the media business. And he said, sure, you can come, and but you're going to have to explain more about why you want to do this. So I had to actually go and meet with him to tell him more about what I wanted to do before he allowed me to shadow him at that time, just for a day or two. But what I learned watching him and working with the cameraman at the time and reporting was that I could do this. In fact, I think I could do this pretty damn well. And I started to report for City Pulse News as Toronto's youth reporter. I'm not making any of this up. If you went into the City TV building today in their new headquarters, you might even see the picture of me there as a kid reporter holding a microphone when I was 16 or 17. The answer to your question, Ryan, is I saw that I could do it, and I had the courage to try. Does that answer your question? Yeah, it's great, you know. Got to tell you though, as fun as it was for all of 40 years working in the business like that, nothing beats this, because I never saw my audience. I just saw camera. Now I get to interact with everybody, and that's really where it's at, you know. Anyways. Okay. Do you feel you know what's coming next week in terms of next week's class? I just want to add one thing about journalism. Really good journalists are driven by exposing some kind of wrongdoing, some kind of injustice. Good journalists have a very sensitive nose for hypocrisy. And they will ask questions of anybody, doesn't matter how big they are, because they don't like injustice. And that's really what Princess is sort of saying, and Ryan too, about a voice for the people and speaking for people. It's a voice for all of us to investigate and communicate. This is the truth about what our leaders are doing. Here's what I have found out. I've investigated, I've asked questions, and so really good journalism is not about what Brad Pitt is going to be doing in his next movie. Really good journalism is not about what an influencer is telling you about what kind of clothes you should be wearing. But these people may be good communicators. Journalists are great communicators, but they're also great researchers, and they care about telling us everything that is wrong and needs to be corrected in our societies. But they give us the evidence. They do the homework. So you will meet some people next week who've been doing that and have been learning along the way the difficulties and how to speak the truth about their worlds. But these are people who all, let's see, look at this. Cheyenne Jarrett. Cheyenne, she's a graduate of the 2022 Journalism Mass Media. Cheyenne Jarrett. Okay, hold on. Oops. Let's get a nice picture. There she is. She'll be with us next week. Cheyenne's direct experience began during her time in the Journalism Mass Media program at Durham College. While enrolled, she took on the position of project assistant, co-producer for the Voices in Durham project, a series of panels about equity, diversity, and inclusion in journalism. She worked to make the project move smoothly by bridging connections with public speaking. And then it goes on to talk about her professional. So, okay. Well, she got a degree in medical aesthetics, but also diversity. And so this is somebody who you may want to talk to because she just graduated and sounds like she has an interesting career in communications and journalism. Excuse me. Anything anybody would like to say before we get down to the main event of today's class, which is we've got to identify that one problem and get some things up on the board in terms of an action plan. You feel you're ready for next week? Come and have a good conversation? Excellent. Okay. So, okay, please stay in your chairs. I think we can start the main part, and I'm going to come back to, let's see, we'll leave this here for now. As a matter of fact, we'll just leave her here. I'll bring this back. Hold on. Here it is. And we have over here, just a second, something happened there. Actual size is what I want. There we go. Okay, so in the cosmos, let's see, Cindy, Mohammed, Nathan, and others. Is there anything you would like to add? Cindy, Mayrene's still with us, Mohammed, Nathan. Before we move on, any questions? You good? Okay. So here's the first thing we need to do. You guys stay here for now, okay? We'll anchor it here. We need 3 people on the board over there. So, Grayson, you want to go back to the board, okay? With Jazeel, okay, Jazeel. And how about, let's say, we'll give you a break because you've been on the note. Unless you, why don't you go over? Yeah, again, yeah, because you've been good on the notes. All right. Ryan, you're here. That's good. We have the microphone there. Could you take your finger and go to the next slide? Good. Okay. So now we need to begin a little conversation where we have to figure out what is going to be our number one problem that we're going to drill down on. And so let's review for a second. Who was Team B last week? Just raise a hand if you're part of Team B. Okay, so Team B, Richie, Ryan, and Grayson. Okay, excellent. Richie, since you're in the chair, could you just explain to us why you chose climate change as a problem that is so significant for humanity from a global and local perspective? So we want local in here, right? Everything is global in this class. But the truth is we have immense diversity. So we have to think globally and locally at the same time. So why is this such a local problem? Go ahead.
Okay. So one of the main reasons we chose climate change is simply because, like you said, it's a really global problem that our generation will have to face in the next 20 years.
Yes.
Whether it's changing weather patterns or alternative energy usage that we currently alternative to fossil fuels.
Yes.
And as well as changing our consumerism habits,
Yes.
if you will. Yeah.
For sure.
So, of course, climate change is such a broad term. But
Yes.
yeah, we wanted to focus more on the energy side of climate change.
Okay, so we'll stop for a second and think for a moment. Here's the critical thing as we look at these 4, we're going to have to choose one, and then we're going to do an action plan. And we're going to do that on the board. Okay, we'll have a separate slide called action plan. What is the local dimension to climate change that we need to be thinking about too? So we know we have a global problem. What's the local problem? Do you want to try answering that, Ryan? Princess, you want to try? And we'll give a microphone. We'll give this over here and we can move it around. But what's the local problem? Okay, he's percolating. He's thinking. Yes, go ahead. Just take the microphone and
Area.
go on.
like then it's your home, then you're going to lose your home then because the sea levels are rising.
And is there a particular event happening in Canada right now as we speak that would be something that probably is a result of climate change?
Yes.
I think you know what is it, Richie?
I believe it's the snowstorm.
You got it. Are you aware of what's happening in Nova Scotia right now?
Yeah.
Have you seen the pictures?
Yeah.
Exactly. Richie, do you want to explain to Ryan what's going on in Nova Scotia?
Yeah, so there's been a major snowstorm in Nova Scotia over the past few days or 1 week. They've received like hundreds of millimeters of snowfall. Yeah, and it's still continuing and it's getting worse. And apparently, the reason why we don't have a lot of snow in Ontario is because it's all gone to that side. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have a climate crisis in Nova Scotia right now. Sure. I just have to do a battery change while we're talking, but excellent. So that's the local dimension. Okay, good. Fair enough. Let's go on to the next one. Okay. So it's very important that as we have this discussion and choose one that we have to figure out an action plan for, that we think today more locally. In order for these problems to be relevant, they need to be relevant to the world around you here. We know there are big global dimensions. We need to establish what are the local dimensions. That will make it a lot more relevant. So, mental health. Who is part of the mental health team? Princess, Jazeel. Okay, Princess. So, Jazeel, do you want to take the microphone for a second? Do you want to give him the microphone? And I'm going to bring it over the camera over there so everybody can see. Jazeel, would you explain to everybody why you chose mental health and what might be the local dimension that is significant here?
Mental health, it's one of the most, how should I say, uh, unreported problems that, underrated problems that happens in our society. Many of them actually deny or won't accept they have a mental health or a mental problem. Locally, people with mental health tend to be harmful to themselves and harmful to the people around them, and can lead to some domestic violence and even worse, assault or death.
Okay, you're speaking, you're on the right track, but is there something happening specifically around us, either Durham College, Durham, the city, or the region, or Canada, that makes mental health something we really need to be thinking seriously about as a major global
Yeah,
problem?
there is.
Oh, what is it?
For the international students, those who come here, they are far away, isolated from their families, working a lots of hours, coming to college, and rarely having time for themselves, and is completely depressed, and sometimes in a concept of money saving to the point where there are some students are actually buying tents and staying outside, so that they want to save money. They don't have help. They don't have any advice, and they are desperate.
Wow. Wow. Especially since Canada has now instituted a new policy to cap the number of international students coming to Canada and also perhaps limiting their funding. The point is that Jazeel has just said something, and I'm going to say something uncomfortable here, but I have to be careful. I'm not going to ask. That might even be relevant to the people sitting in this room. As a matter of fact, Jazeel just did something brave. I think Jazeel is an international student, isn't Jazeel? And
I am.
Jazeel put some of himself into this. He cares. He was prepared to say that this matters to me. I'm impacted by this. We're not going to go into I promise you, I'm not going to ask you any sensitive questions about your mental health right now, okay? Don't worry. But I just think that that's a pretty good example that makes it very local, right, Richie? You say, yeah? Princess, Ryan? Okay. Great. Okay. So for the moment, we're not going to write any more notes. We're just having a little discussion. Mental health, climate change. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Well, then we'll see. We'll see. Remember, I think it was Princess who put tribalism and climate, or consumer and tribalism together, and sorry, consumer and climate change and mental health and tribalism. Didn't you consolidate at the end? Yeah. So, but let's just finish this and then we'll go. Who is the team that did tribalism? Okay, great. So, do you want to hand the microphone to somebody there and explain what you meant by that?
If you see on like a global scale, like most of the problems are like out of the tribalism because people have associated them with the groups.
Yes.
They think that the group identity is more important than their individual identity. So like if you think about like Israel and Gaza, even the Russia and Ukraine, that's all about because people are valuing their like individual identity less than the group identity. They're thinking about more like if they concede, they're gonna be like at a lower level than the other faction.
Yes.
But if they just like both parties just go for the peace, then it's a win-win situation for the both.
And this is let's drill down a bit more. What's your name again?
Subit.
Subit. How is this really local? In fact, how is it really local in the way that Jazeel made mental health local? We could have made climate change really, really local by saying, you know, that grass out there, it's grass today, you know, it's green. We're in, you know, February. There should be snow there. And then, you know, later this week it's going to be 10 degrees in Oshawa. How did that happen? That could be very, very local example of climate change, but we didn't go there. Okay. How is tribalism so local?
Okay, I have a really good example for that.
Good.
Because like I did drop out of a college in India, right?
Yes.
So in that college, like India is really diverse. So
Yeah.
in that college, I was the only guy from like my cultural background and like 7,000 students.
In India.
Yeah,
In India, sure.
yeah. There's like many students, and most of them, the thing I found out that most of them made friends based on the racial background. I think that's still the problem over here. Like, even though we have progressed that much, but that's still somewhere in the minds of the people that, okay, if, okay, I might sound bad right now, but I
Oh,
will
no,
just say, like, if you're white, you'll be like, okay, he's a white, like, that's better than the others.
Yeah.
If you're brown, you'll be like, I better be friends with them rather than the whites and the blacks. That's happening. Like, that's the truth.
You know, Subit, you're making it more and more difficult to make a choice today. Ryan, give him the mic. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought that might be a good like topic too, because like I think that those two are going to be very close in the decision. But you know, I like that he mentioned that, you know, that that's a kind of similar problem like over here, because like you know, other students have like brought that up, and like we're asking like, you know, do you notice like that happens like around campus? And like, you know, like some of the people in that conversation were of like that part of the world. So it's interesting that, you know, all these different cultures are kind of like realizing the same like social barriers and stuff like that, even if it is like unconscious. So I thought that was very interesting.
Subit, how many of your friends are black? or brown? Okay, yes. White, but black?
I have like 2 or 3 black friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Princess, how many of your friends are brown?
I have friends. I have acquaintances. I can't count.
That's another global class. That's another topic. You know, is friendship in our world today. Okay, good. You are really again doing what is so important in this class, and as a leader will do, is a leader is always prepared to give of themselves. They will put themselves into the situation. They don't let anybody else do that. They have the courage to put themselves into it. Okay? And then beyond that, they will take responsibility too. But okay, we need to get to our 4, and then we've got to get our choice today. So now you've established something that I think we all need to be aware of. If we're living in such a diverse world now where everybody can travel and communicate, meaning that we, in just this space, have so many different cultures, how do we ensure that we treat the other culture and see the other culture the same way we see ourselves? How do I look at Princess? How do I look at Richie? How do I look at Jazeel? Different color, different background, and think that they are fundamentally just like me. How do I do that? That's not so easy. Plus, there's a long history in human society going all the way back to the beginnings where we tend to dehumanize the others who are different from us. And when we dehumanize and make them different, then it's not that far from the point where we can be violent against them and treat them badly because we don't think much of them. So how do we make sure we don't dehumanize?
Well,
Way to go. Go ahead, Burhan.
well, considering your own culture, you can also dive into other people's culture, looking at how they perceive certain things, how you perceive certain things, seeing similarities, differences, and how on some topics you can also relate.
Yes, yes.
Now, seeing those relatable topics, you can converse on those areas of um, kind of conversation and get to know other people, see them as more than just uh, you know uh, normal people, get to know them better,
Yes.
and in the end, we're all just humans, brothers, who are the same kind of community,
Absolutely.
and we will all see each other as so if we get to know each other better in both cultural characteristics and overall kind of how we all think.
Way to go. And Burhan, here's the tough question. Okay, excellent. What is the leadership skill that we need to develop that you just explained to us? What's the leadership skill that you are telling us in all that you just said?
Communication.
Excellent. You are very much on this. So we have to be able to communicate.
Correct.
And when we communicate to the people around us, shouldn't we be displaying some kind of empathy for them as well to understand them? Empathy is an important skill.
Yes.
Yeah. Way to go. You just communicated very well. You've been listening this whole class. You haven't said a word. And then when you said something, you made a difference. So you were listening and you made your words count. And as you spoke in complete sentences and you were thoughtful. You know that? You were a thoughtful, responsible, global person. Thoughtfulness is so important.
Thank you.
Okay. Finally, let's go to consumer culture, Team D. Who is anybody from Team D that's here? Okay, Barak, do you want to go ahead and take the microphone and I'll bring the camera over and please explain what you meant by that as a global problem. But focusing on Barak ultimately, what's the local dimension here that's so important? Go ahead.
Actually, I want to start from the global side, I
Okay.
think. We talk about the tribalism, mental health, and the climate change. I think consumer culture or consumer understanding the human beings
Yes.
actually caused all of this.
That's right. It wasn't your dog, and it wasn't the squirrel or even your your Instagram or TikTok. It was the human.
Yeah. And the other side, which is the local side of this, is our credit card. It's in your pockets. We all own the credit card, some sort of, and we all have a kind of debt. If you carry a credit card, you'll have a debt against banks. And this is the actually main thing that causes the mental health issues locally and globally. I'm in the business program, so I've been into the marketing courses.
Go on. Yep.
I went into the marketing courses, and the marketing's objective solely relies on creating demand, even though it's not helpful to the humanity. It's just creating demand. Creating demand.
You want this. You want something. You need this. You need to pay something for
I
it.
can actually sound like a boomer, but at all times, yeah, there was actual innovations that made life easier for all of the humanity. We exploited the countries for this, colonialism of Great Britain, Portuguese, Spanish empires. You can still see the issues going on in Africa and the tribalism, like the skin color we talked about, conflicts in the Middle East. It's all about the consumer culture. The new world order change. Now we're not creating innovations in a way that is going to make life easier for the humanity, but we're actually creating something that only looks cool. The best example, Apple.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing changes. Like the new brand cars, only design changes. It makes the same thing. It takes you to point A to point B. The phone only makes you cool, and they actually charge more money for a different color, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, and yeah, the mental health. More
This is
your
excellent. This is excellent. You've made it almost impossible to make a choice, but I'm feeling something here, but I'm not. Finish your point, because again, from the standpoint of your teacher, I am seeing deep thoughtfulness and good communication skills happening live from a student right now. This is good. So finish your point.
Well, the last thing in the list is the climate change, which I didn't mention until now. Throwaway culture. Again, like the new Apple just came out, but I only bought my new Apple just 2 years ago. Just throw it because the new brand or new version of it just looks cool. Just throw it away. And what happens to the batteries inside that phone? The batteries just disappear into the wild. It actually takes a long of time to disappear. Nobody thinks about that because the marketing teams actually doesn't mention anything about that. It only looks cool, new design features, the fancy words that humans actually don't know about. They rely solely on your ignorance on the world situation.
Wow, and they rely, by the way, maybe I'm giving away what I think should be the choice here, but they rely, and I have to bring just a second the camera back. I don't want to sway public opinion, but they rely on this. Two things I have in my pocket, and that's it. My bank card and my credit card. Now, I have no cash anymore. So, if for some reason my wife and I have not paid off our credit card amount for that month, and I learn that when I go to buy my triple espresso at Tim's, and they say, declined, I'm ready with my debit card. Barack seems to have just made the case that it's so local that it's right in your pocket. But I don't know about that. Uh-oh, what do you got there, Barack? Do you have any cash? No cash.
No cash, no nothing, only cards.
No cards. So, Ryan, do you have any cash or cards? Card. Princess? No. Your phone. It's your phone. So you've got the cards in the phone, the cash in the phone. Richie? Cards. Subi, it's Abdul. Sorry, Abdul. Some cash. You're a dinosaur. I'm just joking. Sometimes I have to carry cash too. No, I don't want. Subit. You got everything. You're ready for anything. Burhan. He's prepared. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, Burhan. Jazeel. Phone of $5. Barak. Oh, you showed us. Sorry, Grayson. So you're prepared. Let's go into the cosmos for a second. Can anybody there, Nathan, could you just, we'll go for one planet right now. That's all we have time for. Nathan de Guzman, is it? Nathan, ND? Planet ND? Okay. How about planet Cindy? Cindy, are you with us still, or is that?
I am.
Excellent. Okay, good. Planet Cindy, right now in your pocket, do you have cash, credit, or do you just have your phone and a credit card in your phone? Where's your money right now?
As you probably know, women's clothes rarely has pockets, so I just keep my phone on me.
You keep your phone. Okay, good. Okay. I think given our time, we only have 5 minutes left. We're only going to have chance today to choose the problem, and we will return to this after next week's class with the action plan. Okay, so this is turning into a three-parter, this class. But that's okay. It's great. It's been an excellent discussion, but we now have to do a little voting. Princess? Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Now, I was in Team C, the mental health thing.
Yes.
And I understand the consumer culture and, the climate change,
Yes.
which we already have solutions for that. Like, we're already, generally, the whole world, they're already making plans and steps to help this, right? It is an issue, yes, but there is a solution that's already on the way. And there are more people that are still bringing more solutions. Mental health is something that people ignore, but it is a root issue. If you want to talk about consumer culture, depressed people are wasteful. It's a fact, it's a medical fact.
Is it? Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
Some people enter depression and anxiety and they go into shopping. You can trace it back to mental health. Tribalism, it is in every part of the world, every single part of the world, right? And it also affects people's mental health.
Sure.
So what I'm trying to say is mental health is so important because a healthy mind produces healthy ideas. A healthy mind is creative. Before someone dies, they first die in their mind.
Okay, I'm going to stop and I'm going to make it. Stay there. Barack, would you come and sit where Richie is? So I have a feeling. Yeah, absolutely. But I think that what we've got. It's Barack, not Barack. Yeah, go into because I think we have something amazing here. We're talking about root issue. He has said it's consumer culture, and he gave a very passionate, articulate, well communicated explanation for that. Now we've got Princess saying it's mental health as the root. We're now down to the best part of the class, and we get to the root. It's like we've been peeling off the layers of the onion through this class, and now we're right at the core, the root. Well, Brian, you go ahead, and then we're going to let Barak and Princess discuss, and then we're going to end. Okay, we're not going to have an answer today. But we're gonna get close. Ryan?
I like what Princess said about like getting to the root of the issue, because I feel like mentality is like what kind of dictates what decisions you make throughout your life. So mental health is like almost, they say in the Bible and stuff like the kingdom of heaven is within.
Yes.
I feel like that relates a lot to the, identity and sense of self. So if that is polluted in some sense, like if you're, almost don't have the ability to control your will, like
Yep.
for example, like you succumb to greed or envy or jealousy or those like emotions, your mentality is tainted, so you won't recognize the same opportunities you would as if you had a pure mind and tried to see things from kind of outside of yourself.
Sure.
And had an overall kind of more stable viewpoint on things. So I guess
Sure,
what I'm trying
yeah.
to say is like when that mentality is disrupted, everything is thrown off as a result.
Okay, let Richie, and then we'll come to Barack. Okay? Richie, go ahead.
I just wanted to
You can come back, guys.
put my support in for tribalism because from a personal experience, I've experienced a lot of tribalism back home when I arrived in Canada. I was shocked to learn that there is still tribalism here.
Yes.
Very many similarities to back home, and people don't realize how much it affects their daily lives.
Indigenous cultures and the way they've been treated here, and others too. But
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of history.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think tribalism would be my topic of choice.
Barack, we've got a few minutes left, and then all we're going to do by the end of today's class is we're going to get as close as we can to the root issue. We can pick this up at the third class, and we're going to do our action plan. I want to, before we finish, because I want to give you the last word, Barack, I want to thank you all for being prepared to give of yourselves for the sake of collective learning. Many students watching this recording are going to learn a lot from what's happened here today. And so let's see if we can get as close as possible to the root. Right now, it does look like, I can't even say if it's tribalism or mental health, but Barack, I think you're going to probably come back to consumerism, right? So go for it.
It's actually true because like it was just like yesterday. Like we went into the macroeconomics class. It was, I'm sorry, 1 week ago when we learned our spending is actually income for other people. Your spending is actually income for other people. If you don't spend, you don't give your spending to the other people, which means less income. The spending drives the economy. If you don't spend, there is no income, and the economy trembles as we knew it.
Sure.
This is the system that humanity put into motion since its dawn. Like it started off with controlling the food and resources, and it still is. It's just shift shapes, just like that. And the solution is too difficult, but not impossible, but it's too difficult. We talked about the mental health. We talked about the mental corruption of the people, giving into the greed, but it only takes one people in the chain to start the greed. It's just like a cancer. It just spreads. You can't stop the greed, like greed mentality of the humanity, the throwaway culture to, the imperialism. Yeah, need for imperialism in the human mind.
Guess what? I have to say this before. Okay, I got to say, and then we'll come. I think Barack has just made a huge mistake. He just did something that no leader would ever say. The solution is too difficult.
Not impossible.
Exactly, but not impossible. Okay, so you wanted to add that. Good, because if you are going to be in a position of leadership, the difficulty inspires you because it's an opportunity to do something. If you don't want to lead, what you would say, and I'm not saying you would say, is you would say, it's too difficult. We can't do anything about it.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't. I'm just taking this as an opportunity to make a point. But very good in what you're saying. Okay, go ahead and finish.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is the consumer culture of the humanity started before even the humanity exists. The imperialism is inside us. It's not it's actually difficult to solve it, but it's not impossible. But
Yes.
it's going to take a lot of collective effort. It started the tribalism. It started the mental health crisis as we knew it. It started the climate change as we knew it. But like I said, it takes collective effort of the humanity to solve it.
This is excellent, guys. The way you're expressing yourselves, you're communicating, you're making sense. Princess, go ahead.
I'll first start with what I understand by what you're saying, because I first need you to understand my perspective so that we won't have a clash. So I
It's
understand.
okay if we have a clash. We can have a clash. Not a problem. But it's a question of how we have the clash. We don't avoid clash. A leader does not avoid a clash, ever. It's how you have the clash. That's what matters. Do not avoid. Sorry to jump on that, but I have to. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, so from what I understand, you're basically saying people are wasteful and the waste is affecting the environment and degradation of things, right? Or can you explain better?
People were, people were grateful and wasteful all the time since it's,
Okay, so are you trying to tell me if what I am trying to say is, does this apply to every human being on earth, or is this just on a global scale?
yeah,
Does it
yes
apply to
and a
the
no.
homeless?
Oh, fix the audio, just so I'm going to lower this a little bit.
Does
Go
it
ahead.
apply to the homeless man that is living near Oshawa Center?
No.
Is he wasteful?
Nope, that's not a thing.
Let them hold on. First of all, just a second. I have to say, we're 5 minutes over, and I'm going to tell you something because I have to be careful about time. I hate to do this, but I'm going to say we all need to be like elephants right now. When I made a television series quite a few years ago called Zoo Diaries, still runs on the National Geographic Channel, Discovery Channel. I spent a lot of time at the Toronto Zoo setting up the television series. And I got to know the zookeepers, the animals, including Charles the gorilla, a very smart gorilla. I still have his photocopied handprint framed at home. He's the gorilla that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman came to see when they were in Toronto making a movie many years ago when they were still married. And she, I don't think, was a Scientologist. But anyways, I'm not going to go off on a tangent about Scientology. Oh, please. I can't. I can't. You know, when elephants are being trained to do something, if you end the training session with the elephant having learned something, did I say this in another class? Yes. It's a very important. The elephant will remember and be able to pick up exactly where you left off in the next section if it remembers exactly what he learned or she learned in the previous session. But if the elephant seems to stumble and you end the session, then the next session, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Well, guys, I hate to call you all elephants, but I'll put myself among you. We're at that point where I think you're all getting it and you all want to keep going. So we're going to end with what we say gases in the tank. So that when we pick this up in the third class in 2 weeks after next week, you guys will be able to just start like that. And we will finish this. Only because of time. Only because of time. Well, then if I say you, Princess, is it okay if I let them speak finally? Is it because I want to make sure everybody has a chance? For the onliners, you can go if you want. It's okay. You're welcome to stay. I want to let you speak, but I want to make sure everybody's, you can stay, you can go. It's okay. This is all going to be recorded, what's going to happen right now, and it will be a great resource. So, Ryan, you go ahead, let Princess and then Barack, okay? And then if Richie, there's something you want to add, I want to make sure you all have a chance to address this. Go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of tie together those two ideas where I think that part of it is at least paradoxical in the way that like consumerism is based on the like kind of mentality that you're always reaching for something outside of yourself instead of just being able to sit and like, be satisfied with what you have. It's like that mentality of greed again. And that goes back to mental health, right? So I feel like those two things are kind of paradoxical in the way one creates the other, right?
Sure.
So I think that the two ideas are very interlinked.
If you had to choose one,
I
you
mean,
have to really narrow it and say, make a hard choice. What would you choose?
I would say mental health just because it's like the overall, I guess, focus of where the problem is rooted. But consumerism is almost a result of that that we can see in the physical world, right? So it's almost an example or a representation.
Good. Okay, great, Ryan. Princess, go ahead.
Thank you, Ryan. I totally agree with what you're saying. But what I wanted to say is no matter the choice we make in class today, I believe the most important thing is what we are doing. Can we narrow it down to an individual? Can we narrow it down to influence? I know I understand it's a global scale, right? But we're also looking at solutions like for problems to humans. Like you're I don't. I'm sorry for putting it this way, but you're saying it in like a corporate. We should do this. The companies do this. I'm talking like even to a child. It's of course it influences everybody, right? But if you're bringing a solution or if you're bringing a problem, you should narrow it down to an individual. How does it affect this person? And if I'm bringing this topic to this person, if I'm bringing a solution to this person, will it be something easy to understand, first of all, so that they will know where their fault is? I cannot go to a homeless man and be like, you're wasteful, you're always reaching out for things because he doesn't have things. I'm sorry, but it's true.
Okay, let me stop. Let me stop for. You know what you're doing that is wonderful is you are expressing yourself in a moment of some tension. This is great. Leaders do this all the time. You are talking to a person who's saying something different from you, and you're not shouting at him, you're not swearing at him, you're not walking away from this. You're actually standing here and expressing yourself in a very thoughtful, clear way. Now let Barack finish, okay? And then we are not going to conclude anything today. We will pick this up where we left off because we are all elephants. Barack, go ahead.
So we talked about the curiosity and humanity reaching out further away from its visible reach, right? The desire to innovate actually drives the motivation behind the consumer culture, but it takes one person to go corrupt. The power that he has, like the control over food, the person provides to the community. Let's just say he owns a farm, then he owns the food, right? Then everybody just began to revolve around him. And if he decides to go bad, he can influence other people. He can become what do you say? Role model. Yeah, he can become he or she can become a more role model, and it just starts a chain reaction. And it takes another one person to observe him, and he's going to or he or she is going to be like, yeah, I want to be like him. Then the chain starts. It's probably how it started, and it's actually interlinked to the mental health. I'm definitely agreeing on that one. Ryan explained it really great. I cannot go against him. And these two things are interrelated. So yeah, we can't just say it one started first. Probably it both triggered each other.
Okay, let's stop and make sure the others, because I see Richie and Subit. Did you want to say something? Grab the microphone from Richie, okay? And then I want to make sure you all have a chance to get down on our recording because we're going to pick this up next time. Go ahead. Subit.
Okay, I don't know if I'm like right about saying this, but I think the only two things that came close to like ending the consumer culture were like socialism and stuff related to that, right? And that
Yes.
failed spectacularly.
And that would be
That's a fail as of now, because we are not that advanced, in my opinion. So, in a way, you need the consumer culture to drive the innovation. You can't eliminate it. There's going to be a stagnant like civilization.
But if you had to choose, what is the one root problem of these four that we really have to prepare an action plan for?
I just have one thing to say. I still would go with tribalism.
You still would, okay?
Because I think the mental health is like a satellite problem caused by tribalism.
Good. All right. Richie? Go ahead.
Me, I honestly,
I'm going to correct the spelling. Go. Just finish, okay? I'm just going to put the R over the S. Keep going.
I would say the biggest problem between the four topics we have today is absolutely 100% mental health. I'd say, for example, consumerism. I mean, you talked about, companies creating the demand, but yes, yes, but at the end of the day, I mean, we all work with credit cards. Some of us have cash, some of us have, like wealthy and all. At the end of the day, it's you who's making that decision to purchase something. The reason why you're making it is because of mental health. Like you have something in your mind that's bugging you, whether you want to be, accepted by your peers. Maybe it's impulsive buying, or you're trying to distract yourself from something else. It's all driven by mental health. I would say even tribalism is driven by mental health. Yeah.
Wow. So I'm going to conclude, unless there's anything else anyone wants to say, which is I don't want to sway it in any way. Hold your thoughts for next time, okay, Barack? But there's so much here. All of you generated this material. I'm helping you. But let's remember something about what you've all done today. You've all communicated, you've all listened, and when you spoke, your words mattered. Burhan? You displayed the character and the mindset of what we are calling today the new leader. You will be the new leaders in this world going forwards. What's happening around you right now in the world that you see are the leaders of today and yesterday. You're the ones of coming. You are the new ones. So we need to learn and explore in this class more and more how you will become that. And I think next week you're going to meet some people who are in the real world who will help you to understand that through the lens of journalism, perhaps. But you can ask them anything. Ask our president anything. This is about leadership when you come into this space. So please make sure you do that next week. Know you have that freedom. This will be posted, of course, in the folder, the link. You can review this page. I'm going to have to let you all go. For those of you who are still with us online, amazing. You're still in the cosmos out there. And the fact that you have stayed like this, wow. You care. You know who cares the most? The leader. That's who cares the most. And if you care, it gets done. Guaranteed. Excellent. I'll see you all next week. Thank you. Okay, I'll just save this before I screw up here. I'm going to stop the live stream. First I save the chat. That's good. And that will go over here, export as a PDF to the desktop. I'm going to stop the live stream. And where is it? Okay, stop it here.